3 o'clock. What's going on, my friends? Chad here. NBA playoff doubleheader on TNT. Bucks at the Pacers. Game 6. Tip-off at 3:30. Indiana leads the series 3-2. Dame will play tonight, according to Chris Haynes. Giannis is doubtful at 6. Knicks at the Sixers. Philly hoping to force a Game 7 after winning Game 5 at Madison Square Garden. Philadelphia favored by 3.5. Sixers owners Josh Harris, David Blitzer, and David Adelman have purchased more than 2,000 tickets for Game 6 in an effort to block Knicks fans from taking over Wells Fargo Center. The Oregon Blackbears of the Arena Football League have changed opponents for their May 4th game and will now face the Georgia Force. Kickoff at 6:30 from the Pavilion on the Oregon State Fairgrounds. From golf, Tiger Woods has accepted a special exemption and will play in the U.S. Open this year at Pinehurst. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad's coming at you right now.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio.
Darvin Ham needs to get fired. Frank Vogel needs to get fired. Who put them teams together? Them trash-ass teams put together need to get fired. Them guys, they didn't just all of a sudden suck as coaches. People who put them teams together, they start packing up their stuff.
The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, presented by Lazy Boy. What is your strategy for comfort?
And Andy swings and he hits one high in the air. Deep left center field. Gone. A home run. Floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee. Andy Pages makes it 2-0 Dodgers.
Goes Jason Pritchard away from the plate. Tatum's got it. Steps to his left behind the Horford screen. Another 3. Tatum has 9 points on 2 shots here in the first quarter. They outscore Miami by 74 points. In a 5-game series, they eliminate the Miami Heat, and the Boston Celtics are the first team on to round 2 in the Eastern Conference.
It's disappointing the way it ended. There are disappointing moments of the season. There are moments where I really thought that we grew from a lot of the adversity. We'll have plenty of time, to go through the autopsy.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad starts now.
Hey, Godfather, I kind of felt like Charles Barkley was taking a shot at us last night with his comments.
No, he wasn't.
Because we were cracking on Darvin Ham, good old Darv, who's about to get fired by the Lakers. In fact, we saw a report today that Darv is expected to be relieved of his duties by the end of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big surprise.
That means like tomorrow.
Yeah. Bye-bye, Darv.
Yeah.
Nice knowing you. The reason why I thought he might be pointing the finger at people like us, I don't believe Darvin Ham's a good coach. I have my question marks about him. It would be very difficult to take that job, but of course he's going to get paid out, and he'll be good to go moving forward. I do think Frank Vogel is a good coach, and he's going to get thrown under the bus potentially down in Phoenix. I mean, where I come out, and this is pretty simple. Sometimes a coach is fired when he shouldn't have been fired because it's not his fault. Sometimes it is the coach's fault, and he's let go for a reason. The issue here comes down to simple numbers. When it comes to NBA contracts, they're guaranteed. It's difficult to make over a roster or to trade or make changes with your roster. So in an effort to appease your fan base who might be frustrated with an early playoff exit, sometimes the only answer for the GM is to fire the coach, right? That's usually what it comes down to. We're going to fire the coach. It's on the coach because you're trying to do whatever you can for people not to point the finger at you. That would be my guess is what's happening with Rob Pelinka down in L.A.
Yeah, Rob's not going to fire himself.
No.
We know that. So that's what happens. I agree with a couple things Charles said. Number one, the idea that the front offices are more at fault than the coaches are, especially in Phoenix. I think that's a mess created by partly a new owner, partly the front office. And similar situation really with the Lakers. They've had time now to find out what works with the 2 stars they have, and they haven't really accumulated, mainly three-point shooters who they can surround LeBron with. The other thing I agree with him is I believe NBA media is, for the most part, dying to be liked by the players. It's such a cult of personality now in the NBA that they spend a lot of time trying to make players bigger than they actually are, turning them into cult heroes. Most of them have feet of clay, and that's fine because all people do. But I just feel like that's what the media is looking for, is to buddy up to players.
Yeah, instead of asking a guy like, why don't you work hard on your defense?
Yes.
Why does that continue to be an issue for you?
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't hear, if you listen to post-game news conferences now, you don't hear the tough questions you used to get from the longtime NBA media guys. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about the Sam Smith, Phil Jasner, Mark Heisler, those type of veteran reporters around the country covering big teams. Bob Ryan would be another one. They'll ask the tough questions.
Yes. Unfortunately, in today's world, the media as a whole doesn't search for the truth or report fact all the time, because what they're afraid of is getting their access cut off.
Right. And that's part of the problem, too, Chad, is that the PR departments around the league have made it so much tougher on media people. If you don't kowtow to the team, you're liable to find yourself parking across the street in a gravel parking lot next to a homeless camp.
Yeah. What was the rule of thumb for you back in the day? Coaches just wanted you to be fair. They would get upset sometimes with certain things you might write, but what was the relationship like?
Well, I was lucky. I came up in an era where the people I worked for and with expected me to be unbiased, and I was. I had never been a Blazer fan growing up as a kid, so I had that advantage over people in Portland now who've grown up worshiping the team. I didn't have that. There was no team when I was a kid. But, it was I had Jim Paxson, who's still a friend of mine. He didn't speak to me for, I think, 3 months at one point because of something I wrote about him. And then after they get done playing, I'm much closer to him. I consider Jim a friend now and Terry Porter a friend. I always thought Duckworth was, but not while they're playing. That just couldn't happen, really. And I think there were times when Jack Ramsey was upset with me. I remember one key time late in his tenure, Chad, where I went to him in an airport. I'll never forget it. I said, Jack, I'm hearing they don't want you back next year. Jack turned to me with an angry look on his face, and he said, what makes you think I want to be back?
That's good. That's a classic response.
Yeah.
And, of course, now you have situations where it probably becomes a little more difficult. What if the Oregonian is receiving big advertising dollars from the Portland Trailblazers?
That happened to me at times when I was always critical of Bob Whitsitt for not living in Portland. And I always explained the idea that his family didn't have to live with the discontent there was at the time in Portland over the Jailblazers. And I made the same point about him. He gets back on the jet, flies up to Seattle where his home is, and he doesn't even have to listen to anything going on here. But at some point, I was told at the Oregonian, you got to quit writing. And nobody wants to read that anymore. They don't want to hear it. But it was, in those days, the Blazers bought a lot of ads in the Oregonian.
Yeah.
And that's why that was done.
Yeah. So eventually they came to you and said, hey, you need to stop writing about it, because they didn't want to jeopardize the ad revenue that was coming in.
Yeah. Take it easy on those guys.
They didn't ask you to write something that you didn't believe was true. They just said, don't write about it anymore.
Yes. Bury that.
That probably happens all the time.
I would guess so, yeah.
All right. Right before the end of the show yesterday, we were talking about who might win Game 5 last night, Mavericks and Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to say the Clippers. I was like, wait a second. They're the Clippers.
Yeah.
They never show up in a big moment. They never have. They're a joke of a franchise and have been for decades.
Yeah.
Basically my entire life. Well, the final score last night, Mavericks 123, the Clippers 93. They win by 30 points in L.A., and now they go back home with a chance to close out the series in Dallas. That was the most Clipper performance that you would expect in a big moment. And the sad part is Paul George, James Harden, nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And Kawhi Leonard was exactly where you'd expect him to be, on the bench in street clothes. Disaster. And they just gave him an extension. Based on what, I don't know. But whatever they're doing down there, as Brad Botkin put it, it's fantasy land.
Yeah. No, I have to apologize, too. I have to say I was wrong. 2 days ago, I'm praising James Harden for how well he's done as a point guard, a distributor, how well he shot the ball, coming through in the clutch. And it's like, I looked at the game last night and I'm thinking, what was I thinking of? This is playoff James Harden. He has done this as the games have gotten high pressurized. He always does this. He crawls into a deep hole somewhere and doesn't come out. And Paul George, come on now, let's face it. He hasn't exactly been a big-time player in the playoffs. That's the whole playoff Paul George thing.
Yeah, last night in that game, Paul George, 33 minutes, 15 points, 11 rebounds on 4 of 13 shooting, 2 of 6 from downtown. James Harden, 33 minutes, 7 points, 7 assists on 2 of 12 shooting. He was 1 of 7 from downtown. And off the bench in 16 minutes, Russell Westbrook, 2 of 11, 0 of 3 from downtown. He finished with 6 points, no assists, and 5 rebounds.
Yeah.
Your 3, quote, stars no-showed in a big-time pivotal game that you and I both believed whoever won that game was going to win the series. And now they're done.
Yeah, and they can go ahead, and Steve Ballmer can go ahead and say something like, well, yeah, but we didn't have Kawhi. Listen, at what point do you say, get used to not having Kawhi?
Yeah.
That's just part of having him is not having him. That's the whole secret to Kawhi Leonard. You can get him on your team. The problem is getting him on the court. It's always been the problem the last several years. I don't know how much now you can depend on a guy like that because when you need him the most, he's often not there.
Luka Doncic, he was his usual self last night.
Yep.
39 minutes, 35 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, 14 of 26 from the field. Out there performing like a conductor.
Yeah.
Just a little orchestra out there. He's big time.
Oh, he sure is. I don't know if people yet realize how good that man is.
One question that you posed yesterday that we didn't get to, I'll ask you right now. Who is the future the man in the NBA? Is it Luka or is it Jokic?
Well, it's probably going to be Cooper Flag because it's really hard for a foreign player to become the face of the NBA.
Yeah.
Even Dirk, as good as he was never the face of the NBA.
Yeah.
Won a championship and all that.
Yeah. And I've told you before, I can admire the Euro players, but I'm not going to go all in on a Euro. It's never happening. It's not happening. No way. I like the guys who are one of us, born in the country, grew up, those are the type of guys I'm used to. Bird, MJ, Kobe. Those are my guys.
Gottlieb asked a good question today. I don't know if you heard it or not. He said, what if Luka was from Dubuque, Iowa? How popular would that man be?
He'd be famous.
Yeah.
He'd be one of the biggest stars in the history of the league.
Every commercial on TV would have him in it.
I know this is not popular. I'm very much a nationalist, so I'm
Yes,
very
you
much Team USA.
Yeah.
And so I like to pull for my own. That's the way it is. Oh, by the way, tonight, Winterhawks in a big spot at home, are they?
Yeah, they can wrap up this series and move to the WHL finals by beating Prince George tonight, up 3-1 in the series after losing the opening game 5-0 on the road. That's pretty good. That's a cool situation for the Hawks. I hope they pack the old Memorial Coliseum.
How good is Johnston?
Oh, Mike Johnston is the best. He's one of the best coaches in the history of that league for sure. Really good.
Have you gotten your hookup for the game tonight or what?
No,
Did you get the call in?
Still waiting.
All right. The Godfather, Dwight Jaynes, deserves more respect than this. He needs access to the game tonight. Hook him up.
Well, to be fair, I let him know last minute. Because I was waiting to find out if you were going to go.
You're the Godfather, and the Godfather can do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
You want to give him a notice? That's fine. No notice, that should be fine too. Whatever.
We'll see.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. When we come back, the Sixers and Knicks. Guess who's on the call tonight for the game? Satan Foster.
Scotty Foster.
I want to know what Satan's orders are from the league.
We'll talk about it.
All right, that's coming up next on the Rip City Drive. I want to play this for you real quick, Godfather. Oh, by the way, we have a Bo Nix update coming up at 4 o'clock.
You know, I was wondering, Chad. Nice going.
I have a feeling that the rest of my life is going to involve some form of Bo Nix study in the evenings. My YouTube life lately has been phenomenal.
Really?
Paige Spiranek, Bryson DeChambeau, and Bo Nix. I can't get enough.
That's quite a combo there.
That is quite the combo, isn't it?
Very interesting.
All right, Daniel in North Phoenix sent this over to me this morning. I don't want to play it because I remember this series and the comments that were made by Paul Westphal. 1993, that was the year that the Phoenix Suns went to the NBA Finals. They had Kevin Johnson. Charles Barkley was the MVP, even though it should have gone to MJ. But that Suns team was awesome. They were a great team.
Really good.
But people forget because they made it to the finals. In the first round, they played the Lakers in the 1-8 matchup back when the first round series were 5-game series. And the Lakers came out and won both games on the road against the 1 seed. And they're going back to L.A., and all they have to do is win one game of the remaining 3, and they advance and knock out the 1 seed Suns. After game 2, with another disastrous loss, here's what Paul Westphal had to say. It's amazing.
That's hard to take, but let's give them credit. I thought we played well enough to win, and they just took the game anyway. So we're down 0-2, and I know the next question is, are you guys dead? No, we're going to win the series. We're going to win one Tuesday, and the next game's Thursday. We'll win there, then we'll come back and we'll win the series on Sunday. And everybody will say what a great series it was. It has been a great series, just we haven't liked it too much. Because we're a better team than the Lakers, and we will win.
Boom. He was right. The Suns went
He
into
was.
L.A. They won game 3. They won game 4. And they came back home and won game 5, which was a thriller. All 3 of those games were super close, and the Lakers had their chances. What a series it was. And that series propelled them as they moved forward in the postseason that year. And that was amazing. Because when he made those comments, young Chad was watching the TV thinking, you're high, man. You're done.
You crazy.
I was laughing at him because I'm like, you're so done.
Yeah.
Because I thought, man, the fact that he came out so brashly said that, I thought, man, he knows he's done. But no, they came out and got the job done. And really, maybe that was the wake-up call that team needed to really get their playoff spark going. But I love that.
Yeah.
You forget about moments like that in the playoffs, but that was pretty wild.
He was a very controversial coach. He coached well enough, but he had a little trouble with ownership, with the front office, and he got himself fired a couple of times when he probably didn't deserve it. But his politics didn't help him. You know, he was drifting over in the direction that eventually became I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. They didn't like his politics, put it that way.
Yeah. And back then, coaches were a little more outspoken in sharing what they think.
Yeah.
Now everyone just keeps quiet because they don't want to make any waves for the most part. But, yeah, that was amazing. That was a great time. You just told me the stats. Who ranked last in TV crews in the NBA?
Golden State Warriors. Bob Fitzgerald.
Who's his color guy? Is it Kalina Azubuike?
Azubuike, yeah.
I like him.
They were 14th, by the way, when Jim Barnett was the color guy.
Yeah.
And everybody here knows Barney from University of Oregon.
Yes. And the guy that made the shot that started Rip City with Bill Schonley.
First-year Blazer.
I love Jim Barnett. He's awesome, and he was terrific on TV. The old-school announcers are great because they kind of say whatever they want.
They don't care.
They don't care.
And it's like with Barney. He had enough seniority there. I think they tried a couple of years before he retired. They thought, yeah, Jim, well, maybe just cut back on the games or something. He said no, and the fans said no, and he was back doing however many games he wanted. He's that popular.
It's so good. That's why I love Mike Rice so much. He didn't care, and he would say whatever was on his mind, and I find that to be quite entertaining. Fitzgerald, not the most popular person in the Bay Area when I was down there.
Really?
The mistake they made was going to Fitzgerald instead of Greg Papa.
Right.
Greg Papa is like the godfather down in the Bay Area.
He's an institution, right?
An institution. He's one of the best. He does TV. He's now the voice of the 49ers. He's been the voice of the Raiders. He was the TV voice of the Warriors. He was on the call when Sleepy Floyd had that monster game in the playoffs against the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
He's been there for everything. Like, he's a Bay Area guy. they would be smart to go back to Papa and let him call games when the 49er games don't interfere.
Yeah.
That's all. And I guarantee you, if you put Papa in that spot, all of a sudden their rankings shoot straight back up to the top.
Yeah, he's a real pro.
And you know how the good play-by-play guys are, the best? They always seem to make whoever their analyst is better.
Well, they know how to do that. They know how to set them up.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So where did the Blazers crew rank on that?
I didn't see the full rankings.
Okay.
I just saw the story out of the San Francisco paper, which seemed to take great delight in the ranking of the TV guys last. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, it's great hearing Kevin Calabro do playoff games on network TV.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, Portland's lucky to have him.
Calabro's so good. When Paul Allen made the decision to change TV crews and bring in Calabro and move on from Barrett and Rice, no one liked that move at all because they view Calabro as a Seattle guy, which you and I have always thought is funny because Shanley was a
Seattle guy.
Yeah, 100%.
Of course. More a Seattle guy than Calabro, probably. Because he had done all those sports up there. He was Mr. Seattle.
Yeah. And my guess is he didn't want to come to Portland, but went ahead and did it because he had an opportunity to call games for the Trailblazers.
Yeah. Well, big league job. He'd already had.
Yeah.
He had the Seattle Pilots for that 1 year along with Jimmy Dudley, and they were gone to Milwaukee, and he's left without a big league job.
What I've noticed over time, and this happens with greatness, when you're a Hall of Famer like Kevin Calabro, you're so good that eventually even your haters are going to come around and be like, okay, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And that's no knock on Mike Barrett.
No.
It was good.
No. And you and I love Barrett.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love Calabro and I love Barrett. They're both terrific human beings.
Yes, they are.
They're two guys that, like, Mike will text me sometimes and just share certain thoughts. I can walk up to Calabro and he'll have a conversation with me anytime. I love those guys. Mike Rice will have a conversation with me, but when I ask him to come on the show, he never remembers, and I can't get him on the show.
He had a little memory problem.
He's got a standing tee time. One thing I like about Rice.
Tennis, too. Not just golf, but good tennis player.
Actually, I should tell Nancy that the best person to play golf with, if you're in a tournament or some sort of a scramble, Mike Rice is the perfect golf partner because
he doesn't remember his score, right?
That, and he has a very favorable interpretation of rules. He's like, yeah, that looks pretty good. Just put it right over there.
So did you play golf with him?
I did. My dad and I played in a tournament out in Oregon City with Mike Rice once, and it was awesome.
Oh, wow.
It was great because Mike Rice holds court. He talks, and if there's a lie that he doesn't think is...
He just nudges the ball a little bit?
Yeah.
In a tournament.
Yeah.
Of course.
It was very helpful.
Just to warn you, that tournament you're going to be in with Nancy, there's none of that stuff.
No. And I always play by the book, right? That's how I operate.
You don't do gimmies.
No, there's no gimmies. The reason why is because in my experience, only for myself, there's no such thing as a gimme.
Yeah.
The 3-foot knee knocker trying to hit a birdie putt or save par, sometimes those go awry.
Yeah.
The best part about some of the guys I've seen on the course, they're handing out 5-footers all over the place. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
I watch it on the 17th green.
You're good.
Every day.
Get
guys
out of
pick
here.
up the ball on a putt. I know you're not 50-50 making that putt.
No. And I encourage anyone that plays with me, just putt it. Let's make sure.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, when the sphincter tightens up and you got to make it, and it's important it happens. So it's pretty good. But I'm just saying that Nancy might want to consider hitting up Mike Rice because they would have favorable conditions on the course.
It would, Nancy would drive her nuts. That would not sit well with her.
That's one thing about Nancy, your wife. By the book, honest.
Yeah.
She couldn't tell a lie.
No, she can't.
She can't tell a lie.
Yeah.
Like
I watch people in tennis. In tennis, you make your own line calls,
Yeah.
And people look at her like, are you sure that was out? And I thought, if you only knew.
Yes.
I mean,
and if
she couldn't cheat them if you paid her.
No, because it would kill her.
Yeah.
That's called integrity, my friend. That's what she's all about.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little basketball. Knicks and 76ers tonight. First off, how about that group of owners for the Sixers making some type of public announcement? Hey, just so you know, we just bought up over 2,000 tickets to make sure that we block Knicks fans from taking over the Wells Fargo Center. Part of me likes it, and then part of me thinks it's embarrassing that the owners have to buy 2,000 tickets.
Yeah.
because their Sixer fans aren't doing it. What's up with that?
They did this yesterday. It's like the day before the biggest game of the season, and there's still 2,000 tickets left to buy?
That doesn't sound like Philly fan to me.
No, I don't understand.
Philadelphia fans, from the ones I've been around, like when I was down in Arizona a couple of years ago, Steve and I went to an Eagles-Cardinals game.
Yeah.
Eagle fans were everywhere. They're crazy, and they're loud and obnoxious and awesome. They bring a lot of energy to the building. I'm just surprised that they would let New York roll in and take over town like that. So that's shame on Philly fans for not showing up in droves to cheer on your Sixers. It's a big game tonight. So I like it, but then at the same time, I think it's kind of embarrassing that you have to do that for a playoff game.
Yeah, and I don't even know how successful it's going to be because they're going to give these tickets out to, they say, first responders, whatever that means in today's world. You know, it's
They're buddies.
Yeah, whatever. But how do you know those people aren't going to just turn right around, sell them to a ticket broker? Because they're probably worth some money, at least to those New York Knicks fans who want to come over there and watch. And I've also heard the reason Knicks fans like going there is the tickets in Philadelphia are quite a bit cheaper than the ones in New York.
Yes, even on the secondary market.
Sure.
Yeah, you get them for a much better price. And if you're a Sixer fan, I know exactly what they're thinking. I'll sell a game or two, and I'll raise up the price and take advantage of these Knicks fans and make them pay out of the backside for these tickets.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get they're trying to recoup cash for the money they've spent on tickets.
Yeah. That's what people do that everywhere.
Yeah, here in Portland, you buy season tickets, wait for the Warrior fans to come to town because the Bay Area money is rich, and those fools don't care how much they pay. They just want to come in and watch Steph Curry bomb away from downtown.
Yeah, Laker fans will do the same thing. Even Bulls, Knicks, Celtics fans, they want to see those games when their team comes once a year. They want to see those games.
Well, I'm looking forward to the game tonight, and I know you are. You really like this coaching matchup between two of the good ones in Nick Nurse and Tom Thibodeau. Why do you like this?
Well, they're both hard-ass coaches, put it that way. They're tough coaches. They actually coach their teams. They also pay a lot of attention to defense, and they're very creative. Nurse especially is not afraid. I saw him 3 years ago come out in a triangle and two against somebody and a box and one. I mean, that stuff is great. Come on, give that stuff a try in this league because the other teams don't ever see it, so they're not sure how to handle it. It works as a nice little, 4 or 5 minute exercise to
it's
do
like
that.
a gadget play.
Yeah, he does that. The only thing that's bothered me about Nurse, who I like a lot, he's growing a lot like Thibodeau in the way he abuses his players' minutes.
Yeah.
Now, he's overplaying those guys, and I get it. The only way they're going to win is if he just plays Embiid into the ground. And they're going to do the same thing with Maxey, who can handle it because he's a young guy. But with Embiid, that's taking a real chance.
I agree. I respect both coaches a great deal. And Thibodeau, while I always give him a hard time for the way he does grind on his players and play them too many minutes over the course of time, I love the way they play with energy.
Mm-hmm.
They hustle. They dive for loose balls. They rebound. They're great defensively. And as time goes on, I'm starting to realize that Thibodeau was much more instrumental in that Boston championship with Doc Rivers than you realize. I mean, he's a defensive wizard.
Yeah.
That's what he's known for. And he holds his guys accountable. And Nurse is respectable, too. And you're right. The reason why he's not in Milwaukee coaching Giannis, they didn't want any part of Nurse because they know that he's going to coach their asses off.
Yeah.
And a lot of players don't want to deal with that type of mess.
Well, Thibodeau had a real shelf life wherever he's been. He's lasted longer in New York than I thought he was, maybe because it's a tough town and nobody wants to hear the players complain. But they complained about him a lot in his previous stops.
I think the Sixers can win tonight, but the only way they're going to have a chance to win this series, they're going to need another big performance from Maxey. You got to find a way to get out of tonight's game with a win without playing Embiid 40-plus minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can do that.
I don't either.
Because these minutes take their toll, and Embiid's not 100% right now.
I wouldn't be surprised if he can't get through Game 6. If he just, falls on the floor and they got to cart him out of there. I mean, they're pushing him into the red zone. It's that old dial there on the dashboards into the red zone.
No question. All right, two other things we got to deal with. One, once again, we get hit with the stupid 2-minute report from the NBA.
Oh.
Last 2 minutes, we found out that Maxey traveled on that 4-point play where he hit the big three and got the free throw to cut the lead to 2 at 96-94 at the end of Game 5. why does the league continue to put out a report indicating all the things they got wrong if you're not going to take action to be able to right what was wrong? I don't see how you help yourself when you're putting out there to everyone, hey, we screwed up again.
Yeah. And Chad, that travel wasn't nearly as egregious as many other ones during the game.
100%.
But all they do is look at the last 2 minutes in a close game. So you don't hear about how many other travels they missed. But my new suggestion is don't put it out unless you're willing to show what actions you're taking against the officials who missed that call.
Yeah.
Because that's a big call, and they deserve to be disciplined for missing that call that probably cost a team the game, cost them the series, because they would have wrapped up the series with a win there. And it's like, fine them, suspend them, rebuke them, whatever you need to do, put them on probation. I don't care what you do, but go ahead and say, here's what we're doing to the officials who missed it, because the players, they've already been penalized.
All right, one other thing to keep an eye on tonight. It used to be Dick Bavetta. Now it's Scott Foster, the company guy.
Yeah.
He is the league company man. He's being brought in for Game 6. What do you think Scott Foster's orders are from the league? They probably would like to see a Game 7 back at Madison Square Garden, if I had to guess, right?
Yeah.
Is that a fair assumption?
Well, a lot of people think they call him the extender. That's what people call him. He's brought in to extend the series to get as many games out of a series as they can. See, I think
the extender.
I can't go that far with it. I think he's been brought in to make sure the Knicks win Game 6 because they don't want to take a chance on a Game 7 because in one game, who knows? And look, anybody who talks about this has to realize you can't always dictate the outcome of a game. If your team comes out and misses 28 free throws in a row or can't make threes, I don't care how much the referees are pulling for you. They can't change that outcome. So there is, if you get a chance to move the Knicks on, which is the most important thing. Look, they want the Knicks in the NBA Finals. I don't doubt that at all.
Oh, Adam Silver. Skeletor right now is praying for a Boston-New York Eastern Conference Final.
Preston Highfield, since I tweeted about that earlier, he's been badgering me on a text all day long. Oh, that could never happen anymore. No, not in this era of social media. Yeah, well, certainly social media can rein it in. Yeah, there's a lot of truth in social media. Let's get that out. But no, and he's not doing it to fix the games or bet on the games. He's carrying out the league's wishes the way Dick Bavetta and other guys did. He marched into the referee locker room before that game against Sacramento and said, I know why I'm here. I know what the league wants.
Yeah.
And he went out and proceeded to show us.
Ask Rick Adelman if the league has an extender.
Yeah.
He'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. The extender is a great nickname, too, for Satan Foster. All right, telephone number is 503-248-0620. When we come back, we have an alternative for you that's actually pretty good if the NBA playoff games tonight go sideways. And also, Matt Ishbia, he might be crazy.
He delusional.
We'll give you his comments about his roster and his draft picks coming up next. All right. Based on listener request on the YouTube chat, and you can go to YouTube right now, youtube.com, pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620. You'll find the live link to our stream here in studio if you want to check it out. We brought up the wild one, Mike Rice, and someone was referencing him and Shacker having the entire Blazer archive the way that he does. Sent this over to me. This is Eddie Dissett, one-time voice of the Portland Trailblazers.
And a good one.
Working with Mike Rice. Take a listen to this.
Cliff Robinson was assessed a technical. They put Reggie Miller at the line, and he hit it. That puts Indiana up 58-51, and pardon the confusion, but we have just lost Mike Rice, who has been asked to leave the scoring table, as Clyde taking a shot at the other end and is knocked away and out of bounds. Clyde Drexler losing possession of the ball, and we're going to try and gather ourselves here a moment because Mike said something to the official, Steve Javi, and Javi has asked that Mike be removed, so he is gone. Inside back door, McKee put it up and in, and Indiana now leads 60-51.
All right, there is the moment when our boy Eddie Dissett let us know that Rice was out, and here is, this is the post-game show with.
I can't wait.
Let's take a listen to this.
Well, hello again, everyone. Eddie Dissett and Mike Rice, the Wild One, is back with me. Now people are understanding why I call you the Wild One.
I don't want that nickname anymore.
I mean, you are something else. First here in Market Square Arena. They'll put this one down in their press guide next year. First announcer to get thrown out in the history of the franchise. Mike Rice, the Wild One.
I think Javi threw out a mascot, so that might have to top this now.
He did. I am told that he did. The mascot apparently was jumping up and down on the scoring table here, and he got tossed out of here also. So Steve Javi kind of taking things into his own. For some reason or other, the officials have developed this personality, this persona, that they are more important than the game at times.
There you go. How about that, Godfather?
Yeah, Steve Jaffe. What a mess. That guy. He was looking for trouble all the time.
Yeah. He was a clown, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever get thrown out?
I had a little episode in L.A. Back down. You remember, you may not, when they played in the Fabulous Forum, the media sat on these little kindergarten chairs in the end zone, right by the court. And it was real small desks because we couldn't block the people paying big bucks for the seats behind us, Chad. So, end of an overtime period, long game. Blazers were losing. I'm packing up my stuff. I got my Diet Coke there, my computer and everything. And there's a play at the basket, and there's fouls on the play. I think Cliff was trying to score, and somebody knocked him over, and he and Bruce Alexander, the official, who used to live in Tacoma, I don't know if he still does, they all rolled into the table I'm sitting at, and it upset my Diet Coke, and it went all over my computer. Now, I'm just getting up to go to the media room to write my story, and I am so ticked. And Alexander looked at me, and I looked at him, and I knew Bruce, And I said, Bruce, if you call the first foul, you don't get rolled on the ground. You don't get hurt. There's no foul on the play rolling you into me, and I don't spill the Diet Coke all over my computer. Get out of here, he said. Just get out of here. So I said, I got news for you. I was leaving anyway. So I just got up, and no one really noticed it, but he did. I actually went to the umpires or the referee's locker room after the game and tried to talk with him, and he said, no, you're not supposed to be in here. You can't get out of here. It's okay. Blah, blah. And we met a few times after that, and he apologized to me, and I apologized to him, and it was over. He's a nice guy. But it happened. I have to own it. It happened.
I don't think Steve Javi would have apologized to you.
No, never. No, I always likened him to Jake O'Donnell because he had a similar background. They were both baseball umpires at one time. Jake was a Major League Baseball umpire for a long time. Jaffe never made it to the big leagues. He was a minor league umpire. But they both kind of had the same baseball attitude at the time where, you were the guy that ran the show and nobody could say a word to you.
All right, take a listen to these comments. We were talking about Matt Ishbia, the owner of the Suns.
Yeah,
a lot of times you come in, you got tons of money, you're a young billionaire, you're excited about being an owner, getting a chance to play big-time chess. So he's going to learn with time the hard way, like a lot of these young guys do. You're a young maverick. You want to show off what you can do. And
couldn't wait to make his first trade.
Couldn't wait. Here are the latest comments. This tweet was put out by Vic Lombardi. Quote, this is Matt Ishbia. Let's be real. Ask the other 29 GMs in the NBA. 26 of them would trade their whole team for our whole team and our draft picks, as is. The house is not on fire. We're in a great position. It's not hard to fix. We have enough talent to win a championship. There's Suns owner Matt Ishbia.
He's delusional. And the house may not be on fire. It could already have burned down, actually. I mean, nobody would trade places with their situation, which is no draft picks, no cap room, no way to make their team better.
An unbalanced roster.
Yes.
Yes. Having Kevin Durant's not a bad thing. The problem is they have no tools to be able to improve the current construction aside from working in the margins with minimum guys.
Minimum salary players. And adding Bradley Beal was a real mistake.
It was. It was a mistake, and they're probably realizing that now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue. Now, I respect a guy like Ishbia because he's the type of owner, while crazy, he's willing to spend whatever is necessary to win. And I like that. That's a good place to start, but this is going to require time for Ishbia. And my guess is after you get your ego bruised a little bit, he'll never admit it publicly, but he'll recognize it and then realize that he needs to go out and put money in the best possible basketball staff and surround him not with yes men or people that want to tell him what he thinks he wants to hear, but guys who will come in and be like, look, here's the deal, and here's how it has to be done, and develop trust with someone like that. If I were him, I would throw ungodly amounts of cash at Bob Myers, and I would bring him in. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, the problem with that is you're never going to get a guy as good as Bob Myers until you learn to let Bob Myers do his job and not interfere, because he's not going to come there if his owner's going to want to make wacky deals like they made.
How much did Paul allow his GMs to function?
I always heard that if you wanted to do something, all you had to do, you had to go to Paul and show him what the deal was and explain why you thought it was best. And most of the time, Paul would go along with it. He trusted you. That's what he did. He hired people he could trust. It's like, okay, if you think that's best, we'll do it. And I heard that from 2 or 3 general managers.
But that's not unreasonable. If you want the owner to make a big move, you should at least have to go up and sell your position on why it's necessary.
Right. Yeah, because you're spending his money, right? I'm pretty hesitant when I'm spending somebody else's money.
Yeah, well, in today's world, everyone wants to tell everyone else how to spend their money.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to do that. So Ishbia is going to go through the process. He'll get knocked down multiple times, and eventually he'll come around and realize that, okay, I've got money, I've got power, but I need to go about this the right way. Yeah. Cuban had to learn the hard way, too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. But he was more patient. He came in there, he listened to his basketball guys, and he learned. He absolutely did, and so he got better, I think.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. When we come back on the show, I think it's time for another Bo Nix update, the newest Denver Bronco. And then after that, we'll get into Boston and how really, if there's a time where you want to have Porzingis out of the lineup, right now is the time.
Yeah.
They are in a good position. We'll explain. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. My name is Mud. Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's now 4 o'clock. We start with the NBA playoffs. Right now, first quarter in Indiana, the Pacers lead the Milwaukee Bucks 31-24 with 20 seconds remaining in that opening quarter. Dame is playing tonight. If the Pacers win, they'll advance to round number 2. The Bucks hoping to force a Game 7. Coming up at 6, second part of the TNT doubleheader, it's the Knicks and Sixers. Philly hoping to force a Game 7 after taking Game 5 at Madison Square Garden. Sixers favored by 3.5. Their owners, Josh Harris, David Blitzer, and David Adelman, purchased more than 2,000 tickets for the game tonight in an effort to block Knick fans from taking over Wells Fargo Center. The Oregon Blackbears of the Arena Football League have changed opponents for May 4th and will now face the Georgia Force. Kickoff at 6:30 from the Pavilion at the Oregon State Fairgrounds. Tiger Woods has accepted a special exemption and will play in the U.S. Open this year at Pinehurst. All right, coming up in 20 minutes, we're going to talk with Jeremy Schrupp, who is with FDTV, and he's going to join us to break down the Kentucky Derby, which is coming up this weekend. I think it's the 150th running, Godfather.
Oh, man. That's a lot of horse races.
Now, I've asked you, you haven't been to a Kentucky Derby, but you've actually seen Churchill Downs with your own eyes.
Yeah, I was in Louisville once a long time ago, and we decided, even though there was no race going on that day, we went over just to look at the facility, and it's quite a place. It's big and old. You know, it looks like it's been the site of 150 Kentucky Derbies, but it's been around a long time. Very impressive, and it's a real day. It's just something I could never fit into my schedule, Chad, when I was writing columns, because the Blazers were usually in playoff series right now. That was one thing that just wouldn't fit. That and the Indy 500, I never went to.
All right. Who was the guy from the Oregonian who covered
golf?
Not golf, but the horse races.
We didn't have everybody actually cover them, but John Dulst, who worked with us for years, John was a huge horse race guy. He was at Portland Meadows every night. He would go all over the West Coast following the ponies, and he knew what was going on. He was very good with the horses.
I enjoyed that. My buddy Jeff, his dad, would take us down on Friday nights. We go hang out at Portland Meadows. I enjoyed being around the horses and seeing all the action, and I love it. I love the horses.
Really?
Yeah. And former Trailblazer, the guy from Kentucky, who was the center.
Sam Bowie?
Yeah, Sam Bowie. He's real big into the horse game.
He raced standard breds,
Yeah.
And those horses that ran in front of the Silkies, the driver in the little cart. And
It's
he
awesome.
raced those. Yeah, he had many of those. He did real well with horses, I understand. Very
All right.
prosperous.
We'll give you a preview of the Derby coming up in 20 minutes. All right, let's do it. It's a feature you're probably going to hear on a regular basis. All right, Godfather. I did another deep dive on Bo Nix last night.
Oh, good.
And from what I'm hearing from a couple of my guys in Denver, we know the quarterback room. They just got Zach Wilson in a trade with pick swaps from the New York Jets. They're not going to pick up his fifth-year option. That's not a surprise, but they're bringing in Zach Wilson, who maybe with a new coach, a new little change of scenery, getting a chance to work with Sean Payton, he's got the skill set in terms of he can throw, he can move, he can do a lot of different things, and he's a former number 2 overall pick. Maybe he can be something for him. I doubt it, but we'll see. And they got him, and They're only going to have to pay $2.75 million for him this year, so that's cheap for a backup quarterback.
Sure.
The other guy's Ben DiNucci, who may or may not be on the team. He's not really a factor in this quarterback race this year. But the other story, and this is what the thought process is now, more than likely, Bo Nix is going to win the job. We would be surprised if he didn't win the job because he's the best quarterback in that room, even though he's young and has yet to play. But what is he, 24 years old, played 5 years at college? He's about as pro-ready as you can get. If Bo rises up and takes the job, what you're probably going to see with the Broncos, Jarrett Stidham, they signed him last year to a 2-year deal, and I think he got about $5 million per year, which is a pretty steep price for a backup quarterback. What the Broncos are likely going to do is they can turn around and look to trade Stidham, get some draft compensation in return. Bo Nix starts, and then with Zach Wilson, you've got him there to back up in case there's an injury for Bo Nix. But more than likely, and most people I talk to, if he's ready and wins the job, then having him out there for week 1 to be able to start and play, it's the best thing. And you've seen this over the years. That first year for most quarterbacks, it's a bit of a challenge because you're getting up to speed with the NFL game, the speed, the plays, your teammates, the whole thing. There's a lot to take in as a young quarterback. So if you can get that full year under your belt and you're able to avoid injury and you get 16, 17 games in, then all of a sudden you enter the offseason with that understanding.
Yes.
And you can be so much farther ahead going into year 2 when the Broncos are going to have a ton of cap space and much more flexibility with their roster. So that's the big thing to keep an eye on. That quarterback room and Jarrett Stidham potentially being a trade piece where you can get some compensation back for a viable backup in the NFL.
So they would also maybe hold on to DiNucci as like the third. You get to have 3 now, right?
Yeah.
One that's kind of on the practice squad.
DiNucci would be your emergency third-string type quarterback.
Clipboard guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you got, Zach Wilson. So in case there's an injury,
Sure.
then he comes in. The other thought process is, too, and I guess this could apply to any quarterback, but this is where I'm at in regards to my mind with Bo Nix. As you know, when they took him, I didn't want Bo Nix at 12 because I thought it was a bit of a reach. I understand why they did it. If they would have tried to trade back and wait, he would have been taken off the board maybe by the Raiders in the very next pick. It's quite possible. So if you like him and you think he's the guy, then you take him. And if it works out, no one's going to care that you took him at 12 and you just move on. I think the way I'm approaching this in my mind is like with any of these quarterbacks, we don't know who's going to hit and who's not. Some guys will turn out to be a bust. We don't know what Bo Nix is going to be. I have no idea. I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to focus on the process just like I did with Scoot Henderson this year and watch it step by step.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
Camp into preseason into each and every game with the expectation not being about wins and losses, but about the development of the quarterback. Is he getting the football out on time? What does the accuracy look like? What about the footwork in the pocket? How's he handling adversity? What is he doing when his team's down by 2 scores? How's he handling a rough first half where maybe he throws a couple of picks? Is there a response there? And I'm just going to pay attention to all of these things in hopes that Bo Nix, very smart, working with Sean Payton, quarterback guru, that you're going to see progress throughout the year, but most importantly, game to game or maybe every couple of weeks, you'll see flashes of brilliance that would let you understand why they took him at 12 and why Sean Payton likes him so much.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for Duck fans who are going to be following him too, is focus on the process, not the results.
Yes.
Because the results may not be what you want. He's not going to be quarterbacking a team figuring to be in a Super Bowl race. That's not that good a team.
I'm excited. It's like a fresh breath of fresh air. Fresh breath of air this year.
Okay.
It's a clean slate.
Yeah.
Coach, quarterback.
Well, young players always bring hope.
Yes.
Even Russell Wilson, you're getting him. You figure you got 2 or 3 more really good years from him. Bo Nix is the future. Bo Nix could be there 15 years from now. Who knows?
Yes, if he hits.
Yeah.
That's the hope. You're hoping that he hits and turns out to be a stud, and then all of a sudden your quarterback situation is set for the next 10, 12, possibly 15 years. And the reason why that's so important, because you look up in the division, you got Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert.
Right. And I think you're realistic, Chad. You're not looking necessarily to be in the Super Bowl every year.
No.
That's the toughest division. Well, this year is going to be a little different, but toughest division in football, perhaps. And so just be in it. Give yourself a fighting chance every season. That's good. That's really, as a fan, all you can expect, right?
Yeah. Even with Elway, as great as he was, and he was great, they didn't make the playoffs every year.
Yeah.
86 and 87, they went to back-to-back Super Bowls. 88, they were 500 and missed the playoffs. 89, they went back to the Super Bowl. 1990, they went 5-11. It was a disaster. 91, they went to the AFC title game. 92, missed the playoffs. 93, wild card and out. 94, missed the playoffs. 95, missed the playoffs. And that's with Elway. So you don't expect, greatness every year. What you're hoping for is you get those pockets where the roster comes together, and then you can have those stretches where for 2 or 3 years you're right there at the top competing for conference supremacy.
Well, and let's face it.
Winning a Super Bowl is hard.
Yeah, well, and you got the draft and the salary cap mean that the league and the sport is saying you can't win every year. That's what that stuff's all about. They don't want teams winning it every year. It's the same in basketball. They make it really hard on you to do that. Basketball is different because you only have 5 players running out there, and one guy can make a big difference. Football, you're talking about 22 starters. It's hard for one guy to really get you anywhere.
All right. Shift to basketball for a moment. The Boston Celtics are awaiting the winner of the Orlando-Cleveland series.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned this throughout the year. Porzingis has been critical for them because of his dynamic play on offense, but most importantly, a guy with length who can protect the rim and be a shot blocker. He's been great for them.
And hit threes.
That would normally be a problem to lose a player of that caliber when you're trying to win a championship. But here's what's great for Boston. He's going to come back. But now, no matter who you face, whether it's Cleveland or Orlando, they don't need Kristaps Porzingis to win that series.
Yeah.
So you can take your time and slow roll it with Porzingis, and maybe he doesn't have to play in the semifinals. And then by the time you reach the conference finals and you're taking on the Knicks or whoever, then you're in a position where you have your team at full strength.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
If you're the Celtics, that's the right way to have it.
And again, when I saw him in person this year, I was you're taken back. When you see Tatum and Brown together, you realize how big they are. Like 2 wing players that play both ways and defend and play the right way with their type of size and physicality.
Yeah.
And then the depth with their bench. I mean, they got all kinds of guys that can come at you.
Yeah, they do. I mean, Derek White has been a revelation. I don't even know if they're going to be afford to re-sign him at some point. I mean, he's become fantastic.
Is Charles Barkley okay if we make fun of Missoula, Montana, the Celtics head coach?
I think he'd be all right with that one. Yeah.
This team's almost Missoula-proof.
Oh, I don't know about that. Let's wait till they play somebody tough.
Yeah, well.
Somebody takes them down to the last 2 minutes of a game.
Well, it'll be Denver. That's where the coaching would show up for them. Like the Knicks, if they face the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think the Knicks will play them tough, but they don't have enough to get over the hump there.
No, they can't. I don't think the Knicks could take more than 2 games from them.
Yeah, there's only one team that can beat Boston. It's Denver, right? Is there anyone in the East that can take them out?
No, not in the East. I would say, though, in the West, maybe Minnesota.
Have you decided who you think is going to win the Denver-Minnesota series yet?
No. We'll talk about that tomorrow, I think.
All right, we'll come back, and when we do, we'll preview the Kentucky Derby with Todd Schrupp of FDTV. That's up next. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, Kentucky Derby's coming up on Saturday. I'm going to be down at Spirit Mountain for a little Kentucky Derby party.
Oh, I didn't know they were having one down there. Good.
Yeah, so be down there chilling, looking forward to seeing the race. And joining us right now to preview it from FDTV is Todd Schrupp. Todd, good afternoon. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for giving us an opportunity to talk about the sport that I love year-round, horse racing, and it's one that all sports fans discover at least for one Saturday throughout the calendar year.
No, it's absolutely terrific. Dwight and I were discussing this before the show. We want your take on it. How important is post position for this race?
Well, with the 1.25 miles, first of all, you got to understand the circumference of the track here at Churchill Downs. They can run a mile out of their chute one turn. They have a lot of options. The significance of that, take a track like Santa Anita in California, which is a major racetrack. That's 1 mile around. Here, with the 1.25 miles, since they start at the top of the stretch, they've got a long run to that first turn so that they can sort themselves out. I think we get a little too caught up in some of the post position. However, I think it's most important when looking at how the race will play out and who drew where. It's not so much the 1.25 miles and the layout here at Churchill Downs. It's the running styles of the horses and where they drew. So, for example, I think one of the best examples, Dornoch is a horse that drew the rail. The rail's a difficult spot to be. They've made some adjustments over the years so a horse isn't completely eliminated at the start, because it used to be you'd break so far inward, you'd be running straight at the rail because there's a gap there from where they start the race and then the rail begins on the main track. They've moved that out farther so horses on the inside don't have that disadvantage to deal with that. But Dornoch is a speed horse, and next to him is Sierra Leone, who's one of the favorites who loves to come from way off the pace. Now, I had a disagreement with Larry Colness, who calls the race on NBC. He felt Sierra Leone was going to be fine in post position too because he comes from so far out of it, it's not going to matter. My view is different. I feel if you're down on the inside like that and you don't have a lot of pace, and Sierra Leone doesn't, he likes to come from out of it, way out of it, the rest of the field comes over on top of you throughout the stretch, throughout the first turn. Sierra Leone is going to have to overcome several stops and starts throughout the way. So the long answer to your question is it depends upon the individual horse and where they drew. I don't think it's so much about this horse has to overcome a difficult post because it's the 1.25 miles at Churchill.
Okay, Todd, I want to play off what you just said a little bit. There's 20 horses in this race, I believe.
Yep.
How tough is it to come from the back? And I know a lot of horses love to do that, but that's a lot of traffic, isn't it?
You bring up a very good point because the modern Derby has changed. It used to be that was the Derby move. A horse would make this wide sweeping move on the far turn. It seems like in the era of the point system where you have to have enough points to get in the Kentucky Derby, so these are the 20 horses who earn the most points, that has changed. It's still a fast pace up front, but usually the winning move is a horse who's in a tactical good position. I think it's tough to go gate to wire, and I think it's very tough on certain occasions to come from so far back. It's that in-between running style, that ability to stalk, which consistently has been a huge advantage here in the modern runnings of the Kentucky Derby.
And Todd, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this question. One of the most familiar sights at the Kentucky Derby for years has been Bob Baffert, and he's still on suspension, I believe, from Churchill Downs. But this time, his other horses, I know in the past he's kind of farmed them out to other trainers so they could enter. Are we losing some good horses because his aren't in it?
Oh, without a doubt. I think, in fact, if you made a list of the top 5 3-year-olds in the country, and again, what people have to understand, the Kentucky Derby are those horses who have had a good spring, have gotten enough points, and have qualified to get into the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
There are horses within the 3-year-old division. They're only 3-year-olds. You only get one shot at it. But there's horses who may have gone to the sidelines who we'll see later in the year who will be much better than some of these horses who ran in the Kentucky Derby. In the case of Bob Baffert, his 3-year-olds are not here. And the reason that the horses weren't transferred is his owners decided to make a stand. And the stand was this: Bob's our guy. We're not transferring to other trainers. We already tried that the previous couple of years. So if it means sitting out the Kentucky Derby, we'll sit out the Kentucky Derby. So to that original point, if you made a list of top 5 3-year-olds, 2 of them are in the Baffert barn. One of them is the Arkansas Derby winner, Muth, and the other is a horse called Nisos, who may be the best 3-year-old by far. in the country.
Wow.
We're previewing the Kentucky Derby with Todd Schroop from FDTV. I wanted to ask, there are some new trainers who are going to be participating this year: Safi Joseph, Victor Barbosa Jr., Whit Beckman, and Larry Dimmerett. What is the process like for someone who's getting their first taste of Churchill Downs?
Well, Larry Demerit has been here for a long time, and this is quite a moment for him. He's been on the Kentucky circuit. Safi Joseph Jr. reminded me of a story because I'm celebrating this month my 25th anniversary of working for what was TVG and now FanDuel TV. But he reminded me when he was a 10-year-old kid, he was growing up in Barbados, and he called into our show. I had long forgotten about it, but he is someone who always wanted to be a trainer, had a connection to my career, and so I'm excited for him to be here and have a chance. Both those trainers I mentioned are going to have big long shots on the day. Whitworth Beckman, I think he's got a very live horse in Honor Marie, and Honor Marie has had a very good spring, a lot of seconds and thirds. But listen, I knew a guy like Eric Reed, as an example. About 2 years ago, I went to more Kentucky Derby prep races in my entire career than I've ever been. In a 10-week span, I went Louisiana Derby, Florida Derby, never came off the road, went to Kentucky for the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes, and saw every prep race and thought I had a good handle on it. And then the winner was Rich Strike, who drew it off the also eligible list, pulled off one of the most shocking upsets. He was on nobody's radar. But he was trained by a guy that I knew for 20 years, Eric Reed. And that's what and it's like, even when you're around the sport and you know certain people and you know they're quality horsemen, even sometimes you have a hard time convincing yourself that on the biggest stage, they're going to take on some of the biggest name trainers in the game and they're going to win. I was so happy for a guy like Eric Reed and the four guys you mentioned there. If they pull off the upset, it is going to take them to a whole new level in their career. And that's what's beautiful about the Kentucky Derby. It gives everyone a chance to be on a national stage. People that we know on a daily basis, know are quality horsemen, finally are getting their shot to prove that they can compete at the highest level. That'd be very cool if any one of those four you just mentioned jumped up and won on Saturday.
Todd, I love your familiarity with this race and the horses running in it. So I'm going to ask you about a couple of horses that friends of mine are talking about as favorites. One of them you already mentioned, Sierra Leone, and then Fierceness. Tell me about those two horses and their chances.
Well, Fierceness is the polar opposite of Sierra Leone. As I mentioned to you guys, Sierra Leone likes to run his races upside down. He'll be last, next to last, and rolling late. That's a very exciting kind of horse. Fierceness is exciting in his own way. He gets out and rolls early and takes it to the competition. He won the Florida Derby by 13.5 lengths. Wow. He's owned by a gentleman named Mike Rapoli. If you're a business person, it's pretty amazing to have a billion-dollar idea in your lifetime. Well, Mike Rapoli has had two $1 billion ideas in his lifetime. He was the guy who created Vitamin Water, that eventually sold it for $1 billion. And then he also created another sports water called Body Armor, which he got the late Kobe Bryant involved in as well, and sold that for $1 billion. He's also one of the most outspoken people in our sport. And because of that, between Fierceness and Sierra Leone, you're going to see Fierceness as the favorite because Mike Rapoli is going to be in every media outlet you can imagine leading up to the race, telling everyone how his horse is ready to roll and can't lose. As a handicapper and an independent observer, I am not big on a horse that has run essentially their lifetime best coming into the race. Fierceness was so good in the Florida Derby. There are those who believe no one can keep up with him in the Kentucky Derby. I take the opposite view. I think Fierceness had too easy of a race. And the one thing about the Derby, there's nothing easy about it. It's a rough and tumble race. It's a field of 20, as you guys pointed out. So what's he going to do when he runs into an obstacle? What's he going to do if he doesn't get the lead in this race? To me, he is all or nothing. Either he's as good as his Florida Derby or he's going to be up the track in this race or well beaten in this race. He reminds me of a horse like Bellamy Road, who back in 2005 absolutely ran through the Wood Memorial, double-digit length winner, came rolling into Kentucky, and complete meltdown here, and it opened it up for Giacomo to win at 50-1. He's a little like Unbridled Song back in 1992, who was the best of the division. He came here, he had a big lead at the top of the stretch, and then he stopped badly, and he was run down in one of the most exciting finishes between Grindstone and then a young trainer that nobody knew about, Bob Baffert at the time, who had Cavalier, who lost an excruciating photo there. So you have these horses who come in with big reputations, and then they get found out in the Kentucky Derby, and they only get one shot at it. That's why, to me, it's one of the greatest accomplishments in all of sports.
Hey, Todd, what about Resilience led by trainer Bill Mott as a potential long shot or maybe a top 4 finish?
Yeah, the Wood Memorial was not a deep race this year, but Bill Mott is one of the best American trainers we've ever had. We call him the man from Mobridge. He's from Mobridge, South Dakota, and his whole family, all outdoors people. And he, to me, is a throwback of what trainers used to be and what they should be. He is the gold standard for it. I always root for Bill Mott, but his unique ability is this. Resilience, his last race, is not good enough to win this race. But with Bill Mott, you know he's going to be better than his last race. Bill Mott is very deliberate. His horses get better with each start. Resilience was schooling earlier in the week in the paddock, and I thought this horse looked great. Because he's in the hands of Bill Mott, I would give him extra credit because the Wood Memorial, the race that he comes out of, was not a great race this year.
Okay, Todd, what about Forever Young? Coming in, I think, from Dubai. How much luck do horses have coming in for this race from Europe?
Well, you would think, because that race is 1 mile and 3/16. The 2 longest Kentucky Derby prep races are the Louisiana Derby at the Fairgrounds, which is 1 mile and 3/16, and then the race that you mentioned in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai, the Dubai Derby. Forever Young is a Japanese-based horse, so he left his base in Japan, won the UAE Derby, and is now headed here. Japan's racing program has improved to the point that they are a threat to win anywhere in the world, any big race. In fact, they've proven that because the year-end championships for horse racing is the Breeders' Cup, and they have already won several Breeders' Cup races and kind of announced their arrival. But the Kentucky Derby, if you look at it, and while Japan probably at some point will have a realistic chance in this race, think about Godolphin and Sheikh Mohammed. Sheikh Mohammed is essentially part of the ruling family of Dubai, and he has spent tens of millions of dollars trying to get horses to win the Kentucky Derby, but he wanted to do it in a specific way, and that is bring them out of the Derby in his country, the UAE Derby, and finally they just stopped because it didn't work. So, yes, Forever Young comes from an up-and-coming racing program in Japan that's been very deliberate. It is now starting to really blossom on the global stage. But winning the Kentucky Derby, you see rulers of countries throw tens of millions of dollars at it and can't pull it off. And then you have somebody who bought a horse for $10,000 at a sale and jumps up and wins it. Everybody's on equal footing here. I still have to see it to believe it. The other thing with Forever Young, while, again, I said it's an advantage to having won at 1 mile and 3/16, you don't have to go that much farther to win at the 1.25 miles. That's a good prep. To come all the way over here the way he has, T.O. Password has been the horse that he's been working with in the mornings. T.O. Password is in the race as well, and T.O. Password has actually outworked him. So Forever Young is getting more of the publicity, but I think, both horses essentially would be a big surprise to me.
All right, Todd. Now, I've been watching that race for a long, long time, and I'm a guy who used to get goosebumps whenever I heard, and down the stretch they come. I swear.
Dave Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Dave Johnson.
Oh, my God. I can't believe we've lost that. It's unbelievable to me. But anyway, and I've always wondered this. More people come for the party in the infield or the race?
Well, I think there's going to be a number of people who didn't even know a horse race took place on Saturday.
Yeah.
It is a scene, and I'll tell you what. As great as the party is here at Churchill Downs, the wildest infield is at the Preakness 2 weeks later at Pimlico. They have concerts out there, but that's the whole thing. You literally could come. There's so much to see and do in Louisville, and then on the day of the race, there's so much to see and do that you kind of lose track of time, and that's why they have so much time in between races. It is the complete experience, and it's something, again, if you're a casual horse racing fan, or maybe you're just an intense sports fan who appreciates big events, it truly is something that should be on your list to come and see. And I would make one other point. Saturday will go by in a blur. One, because in my case, I'm working all day, but even people who come here, even if you know it's a long day going in, it will go by in a blur. If you do get tickets to the Kentucky Derby, come in early in the week and come out to dawn at the Downs, because you will get up close to the action like you can't even on Saturday, on Derby Day. Come out and watch the horses train in the morning. So I would say, I would tell someone who has tickets to the Kentucky Derby on Saturday, come in on Wednesday, and then go out to the track on Thursday morning, watch the horses train, and that's where you get a real feel about what the sport is about and why this is such a special place, not only Churchill Downs, but where we are, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, because from here, if you head east, you go to Lexington, Kentucky, where many of the breeding farms are, and a jewel of a racetrack exists there in Keeneland Racecourse, where they only race 3.5 weeks in the spring and 3.5 weeks in the fall. This is a really magical time in Kentucky, and to get out beyond the borders of Churchill Downs is where you get a feel for why this is one of my favorite places in the country.
Hey, Todd, before you go, predictions, any best bets that you would suggest for our listeners?
Well, the horse, if it were a looks contest, the horse to beat is Just a Touch. He looks like Adonis. He just hasn't run like it quite yet. But early on, he was for trainer Brad Cox, who's one of the top trainers in the country, and he's got 2 horses in the race, Catching Freedom and Just a Touch. They felt Just a Touch was going to be the best 3-year-old. He took his debut in a sprint race on a sloppy track at the fairgrounds. Then his next start, he went to New York. I don't think he really took to the track there. He finished second. So now he took on one of the big leaders of the division in Sierra Leone in the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes. And turning for home, he was running his race, and then Sierra Leone came and ran him down. But I think the difference was it was his first time around 2 turns. That's a real learning experience for a horse. So there is more to give from Just a Touch, and he has that tactical running style that I was telling you that the modern Derby has really become all about. I think he could turn the tables on Sierra Leone, and I think he's one of the most likely horses to take the lead turning for home in the Kentucky Derby, the 8, Just a Touch.
All right, he's with FanDuel TV, Todd Schrupp, here on the Rip City Drive, previewing the Kentucky Derby coming up on Saturday. Hey, Todd, really enjoyed that conversation. That was awesome, and congratulations. Happy anniversary, 25 years with the network, which is awesome, man.
No, it is. I didn't think it would last 25 weeks. I'll be honest with you. It's not often you can. In fact, when I moved from Florida, I didn't unpack for 2 years because I'm not going to go over. The network's not going to go over. And now here we are, 25 years and part of FanDuel, and part of Flutter Entertainment, a global behemoth out there. And it's really satisfying to be on the ground level of something and be here. And then to realize my dream, to be able to come to the Kentucky Derby consistently, because I'm a fan first. So I thank you guys for letting us talk about it, and enjoy your Derby party.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it, man. Thanks, Todd. That was awesome.
Take care.
There you go.
It was really good.
Whew.
The enthusiasm is just contagious.
That's an event I need to go to before I die.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Sure.
And he said the big party's 2 weeks later at the Preakness. He's right, though. There'll be people that are like, wait, what? There was a race?
Yeah. I know there's a race, but I can't remember it.
How many mint juleps will be served?
Oh, man.
All right, we'll come back. Charles Barkley's got one heck of an agent.
Yeah.
One heck of an agent. We'll tell you about that situation with the NBA TV rights up for bids. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, let's go out to the phones, Godfather. David in Salem has been kind enough to hold on, so let's go there right now.
Yeah.
We appreciate David. What's up, David? Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Chad, I just wanted to compliment you on talking about your grandmother the other day. That was wonderful. That's one of your great gifts is talking about family. I had a request from you, and you're such a musicologist. You love music, and Chris Burkhart was telling me you had access to iHeart Music, and I really like what you guys do in the afternoon.
Thank you.
And would you do me a favor? And I don't know how much influence you have in this area. Your morning guy, Justin Myers, you could improve his show by giving him some advice on some of the music you play in the background, because you guys do such a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. I'd be happy to give Justin Myers all of the advice he needs on music, because I agree his music selection, for the most part, is not as good as ours.
No, it's not. Nobody's is.
But here's the thing about Justin, David. He doesn't care what I say about his music or the way he does things. He's just going to continue to do it his way. He is the Kardashian of Portland radio.
Yeah.
That's all we need to know about Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the advantage here in the afternoons, Shacker, Dwight, and myself, we all share similar musical tastes. Now, Shacker he'll go off the deep end sometimes with some of his death metal, or what do you call that stuff, Shacker?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it death
called
metal?
Death metal.
Yeah.
But it's in the iHeart Portland library.
Yes.
So I'm playing it. It's the correct way to play music on the show.
Yes, but I
There's
respect
nothing
that.
wrong with it.
Because you love death metal, but yet I've also seen you at the same, New Kids on the Block concert that I was at.
I like all kinds of music.
You do. I accept that. I think that's true. I'll mention somebody that I'm surprised that you like, and very often you're all in on them, and you have a wide variety here that you're interested in.
We both like Janet Jackson, although you disappointed me with reports on her concert where she didn't do full-length songs. Like, that's inappropriate.
Yeah, hopefully she doesn't find out we're talking bad about her on the show.
Yeah, it's like a little sneak preview. It's like, no, give me the full thing, man. What's up with that?
That was more about the dancing, that type of show.
Oh, no big-time person would ever be upset with anything we say on the show.
I'm trying to think. I'm sure I've said something to offend somebody.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, musical artists, yeah. Yeah, they're big-time musical artists.
Yeah.
They love everything that we say about them on the show.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And they love it when we break down their music and everything.
Yeah.
And their performances, yeah.
Yes. We've never ruffled any feathers in the musical department.
No. We're very good about that.
Oh, goodness. All right. Charles Barkley. Well, let's start with this. Word is out. So if the NBA changes hands and it winds up in NBC's hands and is no longer on Turner, we all agree that would be devastating, because that would mean bye-bye to Inside the NBA.
Yeah.
Ernie Johnson, who has been a lifer at Turner, is not going to leave Turner, right?
No, he's not. That word is out, apparently.
Okay. Well, that means that Inside the NBA can be no longer, because you can't recreate something without the same dudes.
Yeah. Well, they could lose one of those ex-players on the panel.
Yes.
But that would be it. You could still survive with Kenny and Chuck or Shaq and Chuck. You got to have Chuck, first of all. You can't have that without Barkley. He's the key.
I just think that Barkley's the key. I just think that group, they all together, they'll never find anything as great as what they have together, the four of them.
I agree.
Like Kenny Smith, it's weird because most of the time when he's talking, he doesn't make sense, and I have no idea what he's trying to explain.
Yeah.
But it just works with that group. Like last night, they were doing some type of, my daughter was yapping in my ear, so I didn't get the full understanding as to what they were doing, but they were practicing like martial arts and different, self-defense stuff on set. And I saw Ernie Johnson crack a glass bottle over, I think, Kenny Smith's dome.
Yeah.
I saw Charles, put a chair on Kenny Smith's back. I saw Shaq and Charles tackling each other on a big pad. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hijinks that take over the show.
Yeah, I think it was some promotion for that movie, The Fall Guy.
Oh, The Fall Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were showing how to take a fall. They were showing Charles how to take a fall.
It's about a stunt man. So then you get all the stunts,
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I just love it. But those guys are great. I love when, because Ernie's trying to do his job.
I know.
And those guys are just complete clowns.
It's an impossible job, and he somehow gets it done. He's an artist at that.
It's amazing.
He's the best studio host in any kind of broadcast arena.
And he's probably the nicest guy in the business.
Yeah.
He's a true gentleman. Have you met him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's
terrific, right?
He's quite a guy, yeah.
Did you know his dad?
No, but I listened to his dad for years, who was a broadcaster for the Braves. Former Major League pitcher, his father.
Yeah, Ernie Johnson's awesome. Well, Charles Barkley, whether it was him or his agent or whoever, so he's got an opt-out in case this very thing happens.
Yep.
So if Turner loses the NBA, Charles Barkley becomes a free agent.
He will be the most wanted man in television.
It's basically name your price. He could make $40 to $50 million a year.
He probably could. Everybody wants it.
And I'm not even joking. Like, legitimately, we're talking huge money.
Well, even if your network doesn't get the NBA games, you'd still want him commentating on the NBA. Sorry, Chad. Got a little cloudy in here, a little noisy in here.
It did. Who's the coach? Who was the GM of the Jags? What's his name?
GM of what?
The Jaguars. Remember that? Excuse me?
Oh, I don't remember the guy.
What is his name?
You don't even
he used
say
to be with the
excuse
49ers.
Me. Yeah.
He used to
Excuse
be-
me.
Because you bring attention to yourself when you do that. We already established that, right?
Yeah.
Let's
Well.
see here. Jags GM. Google's great. Oh, yeah, it's Trent Baalke. Yeah, Trent Baalke.
Is going through, Coach, and I haven't sat down and gone through the final.
There's no way I could ever not laugh at that. God.
Is going through, Coach, and I haven't sat down and gone through the final.
Okay, so let's set up ground rules. Should I pull a Trent Baalke or just
I think
not acknowledge it?
I think it should be a rule that you apologize every time you do it. People are going to get tired of hearing your apologies, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so basically you want me to put out a 2-minute report like the NBA. Last 2 minutes.
Tonight has been a night full of apologies.
Is going through, Coach, and I haven't sat down and gone through the final.
That's unbelievable.
Is going through, Coach, and I haven't sat down and gone through the final.
No. And I don't believe what I just heard.
He ripped it and just said, excuse me, just kept right on with this football take. That is incredible. I'm sorry, Godfather.
Rip City.
Is going through, Coach, and I haven't sat down and gone.
That left a mark, man. I love that. Excuse me. He just went right back into the football take. He didn't even stop.
It's
Excuse
incredible.
me. Yeah. Oh, okay, good. I feel better now. I am primed for the 5 o'clock hour, my friend.
Oh, thanks. Good to know.
All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. We're going to hear from John Lynch, who had some great comments today. But when we come back, Sixers-Knicks, Game 6 tonight.
Let's go.
Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's now 5 o'clock, NBA playoffs. Third quarter in Indiana, the Pacers on top of the Bucks, 63-54. 9:46 to play in the period. Damian Lillard is active and playing tonight. At 6 o'clock, second half of the TNT doubleheader, Knicks at the Sixers. Philly looking to force a Game 7 after taking Game 5 at Madison Square Garden. Sixers a 3.5-point favorite. Their owners, Josh Harris, David Blitzer, and David Adelman, purchased more than 2,000 tickets, trying to block Knicks fans from taking over Wells Fargo Center. From golf, Tiger Woods expected to play in the U.S. Open. He has accepted an exemption. It's going to be played at Pinehurst this year. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now. We'll talk NBA playoffs and hear from 49ers General Manager John Lynch at 5:20.
It's time for the big story of the day on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad.
So now when Scott Foster screws up the goaltend at the end of a Blazer game, Terry Stotts can give the twirl of the finger and we know we're in.
You love Scott Foster, don't you?
Dude, he's terrible.
The big story of the day is powered by Powered Kia. The largest selection of Kias in Oregon is at poweredkia.com.
Good old Scott Foster going to be on the call tonight, Godfather. Knicks and Sixers. He is the company man for the NBA. You told me earlier today his nickname is the Extender.
That's what people call him.
We know that the league has great interest in the Knicks being relevant, being deep in the playoffs, all of that. So what do you think the NBA might be looking for tonight?
Two possibilities. They might look for him to be the extender again. Extend this series to a Game 7 back in New York.
Yes.
Big ratings for that game. Might end up being the only Game 7 played, really. Could be. But I kind of have a feeling maybe he'd like to see the Knicks just polishing them off tonight. That way making sure, dead sure, that the Knicks are going to advance one more round. I think that's important to the NBA, to get not just one more game out of them, but 4, 5, 6, 7 more games.
Who was the extender in the past? Dick Bavetta?
Yeah, they always said it was Dick Bavetta, and he was the guy famously quoted by Tim Donaghy as showing up for that game in the Lakers-Sacramento series and telling the other officials, I know why I'm here.
If you really have some free time, I would suggest you go back to YouTube, pull up Game 6, Lakers-Kings from the 2002 Western Conference Finals, and just watch how the game is called. Watch Rick Adelman melting down and just watch the game. And now that you've had a chance to step away and it's been years, you'll probably be like, wait, what? Where's the contact? It's always interesting to watch something after the fact because certain things will catch your eyes, especially when you haven't watched it in a long period of time.
Kings just got totally shafted. And they still almost won the game. Should have won the game.
Yeah.
That's how hard it is, really. When one team's not playing so well and the other team is, it's not easy to manipulate those games.
I'm still trying to figure out why Vlade Divac in Game 5, in the pivotal Game 4 that the Lakers won at the buzzer on Robert Horry's shot. Kings are up by 2. Kobe drives in, misses a layup. Shaq misses the tap back, and then Vlade hits the ball.
Back tips it
behind the three-point line right into the hands of Horry, who put up the shot. If he doesn't do that, Horry doesn't get the ball, and they don't lose the game.
Yeah.
Crazy. Rick Adelman's still bitter about that one. He'll go to his grave with that one, Godfather.
Well, they should have won the title that year. And by far the best team to watch in the league that year. They were a work of art, the way they played offense.
What do you expect from the game tonight, especially with the Sixers, their key guys, and Embiid playing such heavy minutes in the overtime game in Game 5?
Yeah, I love Nick Nurse, but I think he might have burned Embiid out. And I think my guess would be the Knicks would finish them off tonight. That's kind of what I think. Philly doesn't have much of a home court advantage in spite of the owners buying up a bunch of tickets. It's not going to change things. The New Yorkers will find a way to get into that game. And home court doesn't matter that much in these series anyway. The good teams usually win. I think the Knicks will beat them.
Do you like Jalen Brunson?
Yeah, I do, Chad. He's really so much better than anybody thought he was going to be. And I think that's a tribute to how hard he plays, how well he's coached now in New York, And the freedom that he's been given by a coach who doesn't like to give his players a lot of freedom, but he can score on you in all three areas of the court. You know, he finishes, hits the mid-range, and he can bomb you from the outside.
The one thing I'm looking forward to tonight, we've talked about this a bit, but Joel Embiid has really he's changed the way that I view him now as a player because of the way he's battled in this series with big minutes not being 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I respect the heck out of that because, it really shows that he cares about his team advancing. He's out there on the floor. Some guys would just shut it down, but he's out there grinding. He has a chance to continue to add to his book if he can go out there tonight in a situation where people expect him to struggle after the big minutes in Game 5. If he can come out and lead his team to victory in Game 6 and force that Game 7, that would be huge for him in the way that Sixers fans and everyone else views him.
Yeah, and as well as Maxey has played, if you still look at the way the games have gone so far, the Sixers are plus with Embiid on the floor in the whole series. They are plus. As soon as he leaves the floor, they go minus. And the fact is, they can't really win without him on the floor.
You know who else is amazing? Nick Batum doesn't look like he's aged a bit. He's still playing good basketball.
Oh, man. Gosh, how would you have liked to see him have that whole career in Portland? Yeah, he's not going to be a big scorer. He's not going to be an all-star. All he does is help you win games with his defense and timely three-point shooting.
Big shooter, confident, can defend multiple spots, great length. Yeah, he's been terrific. I like watching him play for the Sixers, and I want a Game 7. I do want a Game 7 in the Garden this weekend.
You bet.
So that's
Me
what
too.
I'm pulling for. Go Sixers, get the win, force a Game 7. And the one thing the NBA playoffs bring, Game 7 drama is very nice. I've always enjoyed it.
It is. And I'd like to see the Sixers beat them in a Game 7 because I'm so tired of hearing about, the Mecca, the Garden. The fans are just going crazy. It's unlike any other arena. No, fans going crazy, making a lot of noise. It's pretty common. It's nothing better in the Garden. People who live in New York refuse to believe anything else is like New York.
That's true. And after going there, I can understand why they think that. It is a pretty amazing city. I don't want the Knicks to win because of James Dolan. Their owner's a clown show, and I'm still mad at him for using his money and influence to be able to work his way into opening act for the Eagles. I still can't believe he was doing that with this crappy band, JD and the Straight Shot. Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
And you're right, Knicks fans are annoying. They do. They think basketball, it's the Mecca. They've sucked for years. And you're still the Mecca?
No. And it used to be partly because, they used to have the Big East tournament there.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal.
It's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
No, and Rucker Park and all the great things that you would have.
Right.
A lot of basketball legends who came out of the playgrounds of New York. There's no doubt there's a lot of rich history and tradition there, but the Knicks haven't been a factor for an extended period of time. And they went to the finals to play the Rockets when Oj was on the loose. And then they had that improbable run to the finals in 99 when they ran into the Spurs and got beat.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's like, what have they done? Not much.
No.
Not much. And then the Clippers last night, what a joke that was. Yeah, there's just certain teams where you're like, this is going to end sometime soon. Although I would say a Boston-New York Eastern Conference Finals would be intriguing.
Yeah, it would.
And
There's
I
a
also
great
don't
rivalry.
want Commissioner Silver to get what he wants.
Yeah.
Because he wants that. He wants the Knicks to advance.
People in New York are so, they think they have celebrities sitting on the sideline. Well, you got Spike Lee. Who cares? Spike Lee's yesterday's news. But they've never been able to match the Lakers for good sideline celebrities, right?
No.
I mean, it's not even close.
No.
You got Howard Stern and who, Woody Allen? Come on.
When I went to the Trailblazer Laker game, this is like back in 2011, somewhere in that area, I sat courtside. Great Blazer fan gave me his tickets, and it was right behind Jack. And it was cool to be there in that situation because I look to my right, I see Jack sitting in his normal seat. I look to my left, I see Bruce Willis standing on the court talking to somebody.
Yeah.
I walk out of the bathroom, and Antonio Banderas opened the door into my face. I saw Denzel Washington. I saw Tobey Maguire. And they're all just right there.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And
Diane Cannon was usually there in the old days.
Yeah,
too.
Diane Cannon was always there. When I first started watching the NBA, we were talking about this earlier. Tommy Heinsohn, Dick Stockton were the announcers, but the Laker games were great because all of the big stars, Diane Cannon, Jack, of course, all of the a lot of beautiful ladies were there, like just hanging out. That was the place to be, the Forum.
Still like that, too.
Yeah.
Now over in Staples.
Yeah.
Or Crypto.
Yeah, the Forum. I never went to a basketball game at the Forum. My buddy Steve knew a guy, one of his buddies was an usher there. And so when the playoffs would hit, Steve would go down and his usher, he would wait outside until his usher gave him the hands to come forward, and he would let him into the games.
Oh, wow.
And so he was there for that Game 5, 88 Western Semis, Utah, Lakers, Karl Malone, John Stockton, and it was a pivotal Game 5. Michael Cooper hit a shot at the buzzer, which won the game for the Lakers, and they ended up winning the series in 7. But had they lost that game and Cooper not hit that shot, the Jazz probably would have won Game 6 and closed out the series.
Yeah, because it would have been in Salt Lake City, right?
Yeah.
And they're impossible.
That
to beat
was
there.
tough back then. So, yeah. And Steve, but he could never find a seat. His buddy would let him in. They would end up walking around the concourse. Every time they found an open seat, someone would inevitably end up taking it. The Forum wasn't as big as Staples, you know,
Yeah.
smaller venues like the Coliseum back then. So, yeah, I want the Sixers to win. It's going to be tough for them. The fatigue is going to be a factor.
Yeah, what did we say? Embiid played 48 minutes in that game?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Nurse. You do know you're Nick Nurse and not Tom Thibodeau, right?
Yeah.
But you like those guys. You respect the way they coach.
Absolutely.
You call them old school?
They coach hard. Yeah, they actually coach their teams hard. And, you know, there's something special about that. And they coach defense. They really do. They have systems. They know what they're doing. They're innovative. I love that. And there's so many fake coaches in the league now that excuse you. There's so many fake coaches in the league now. Excuse you.
I tried to do a Trent Baalke. It didn't work.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do a Baalke. I can't believe he did that. He actually said, excuse me, and just kept going.
Yeah. I know you can't do it.
No. But all I've got is puppy shots. Like, what do I say? I'm sorry, shots? Excuse me? My daughter gets mad at me, though. Dad.
Well, yeah, she should. You can't do that in front of your daughter. Angelic, young.
No, I wouldn't, but there's times where, like, you could be downstairs. You don't know, when you don't know if someone's around or in a different room. Dad.
Yeah. Well, she could be upstairs and you downstairs. She'd still hear it.
That's true. That's definitely possible. All right. We got to get to John Lynch. He was on the McAfee show today. He was terrific.
Absolutely.
So we pulled out 2 clips from John Lynch, former Bronco, former Buccaneer. He made the Ring of Honor with 2 different teams, the Bucs and the Broncos. Terrific general manager for the 49ers. But we're going to find out how he got into the job, which is amazing. And then you'll hear him discuss how the ebbs and flows, the changes in the NFL.
And you don't have to be a Niner fan to appreciate what he says, or a Bronco fan or any other fan. It's good stuff.
All right, we'll do that next. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. You got the Rip City Drive. Man, give me some volume on this, Shacker. You like Robert Palmer, Godfather? He's got some great songs.
Of course I do.
This is a great song.
Oh, this one's unbelievable. I love this song.
Really sad. He passed away at the age, I think it was 54.
Yeah. Way too young.
He passed away back in 2003. He had gone in to see his doctor like a week before he died. He got a clean bill of health.
Oh, I know. That happens all the time. But, some things they can't track, Stuff happens.
I love it, too. He had it figured out. He had the music video figured out.
Oh,
we're going to rock, and then we're going to have a bunch of hot ladies rolling around.
Yeah, who didn't really play those musical instruments, I don't think. Did they?
Who, the Robert or the women?
No, the women. That was just that was eye candy.
I got to be honest with you, I don't care.
Well, of course.
I don't care if they were
would?
miming or what they were doing.
Yeah.
It's all it worked.
Oh, they don't mime.
All right. What did I want to play for you? Oh, by the way, the 10-point lead right now, 3 minutes to play third quarter, 81-71, Pacers on top of the Bucks.
They had it up to 15 just a minute or so ago, but I tell you, the Pacers, they can run cold in a heartbeat.
Yes, and that's what you're hoping for. They hit a cold stretch, they start missing some threes, and then boom, you get a chance to get right back in the game. So my guess would be at some point Milwaukee will make a run.
Yeah.
And then we'll get a nice little ball game in the fourth quarter at some point. 9-point game right now after a 3 from Connaughton.
Well, and the Pacers play at such a fast pace, it's easier to get back in the game. They're not going to sit and hold the ball, run the shot clock down on you. You're going to get plenty of possessions to get back.
All right. Dwight and I were just perusing through Awful Announcing. They put out their rankings. All 30 NBA television broadcast crews. And I was very happy for Kevin Calabro and Lamar Hurt. They check in at number 12. It's very respectable. I think they were 8th in the last rankings, but Calabro and Hurd, like usual, solid, and I think they do a heck of a job. Not a surprise. Number 1, Mike Breen and
Walt Frazier.
Yeah, Walt Frazier.
Clyde.
They do a heck of a job.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not surprising, number 2, Ian Eagle with his crew with the Nets.
Yeah.
And Ian Eagle's so good that when the Blazers played the Nets at Moda this year, I pulled up their broadcast because I love Ian Eagle.
Yeah, I talked to him last year, and it was the first year that he was working with Sarah, his analyst.
Yeah.
And so I made it a point after meeting her, and she's very nice. After meeting her, I watched a couple of their games just to hear. She's really good.
She's a great job.
Very good.
He still does some work with Richard Jefferson, but yeah, those are your top 2. Not a surprise. Breen and Ian Eagle. The part that surprised me was that the Lakers down at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, and I like Joel Myers is number 3, and I like Joel. He's got that $1 million voice. Those pipes are unbelievable.
He's one of my favorite play-by-play guys of all time.
Is he?
And every time I see him, I remind him how much I love him. I roll up on him at Moda Center. I'm like, oh, it's so good to see you, Joel. Love your voice. It's incredible.
He's a great guy to talk to. He gives you all the info on the team. He's not
super nice.
Yeah.
Great guy. And I think there's just certain guys I grew up with. He did NFL games for NBC. Like, he was all over the place. He's big time. Did the Lakers for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
he's
big
had
fan.
plenty of great jobs.
Yeah. He's not hurting, that's for sure. All right. We want to turn our attention to John Lynch. This first clip, it comes from the McAfee show. Dwight pointed it out to me. He's like, you got to listen to John Lynch. I love John Lynch because he played for the Broncos and was terrific.
Yeah.
Nearly got to a Super Bowl with the Broncos. He's in the Ring of Fame, but one of the best safeties to have ever played in the NFL. Great guy from Stanford, like John Elway, super smart. No one speaks ill will of Lynch. They all love him because he's
very popular.
He's genuine. Well, the interesting part is how he got started in the business. How do you go from player to broadcaster to now running the San Francisco 49ers? Well, take a listen to what Lynch had to say on how it happened.
I didn't know I'd be good at it. I didn't even know I'd be doing it. You know, it's an interesting story as to how I ended up here. I ask myself that often. You know, way back when I was a kid, I did love like the NFL draft. My dad used to pull me out of school, out of St. James Catholic School. So, you know, it's back when it started on Thursday, and at half day he'd come pick me up at lunch. We'd go watch the draft. So I loved that. Throughout my career, I'd piss my wife off by not only watching round 1 through 3, but then watching round 7. And I'm filling out sheets and doing all that. And she's going, really? I'm like, come on now, we've got better stuff to do. So I've always had an interest like that. But I think the thing that probably piqued my interest, I was living in Denver after I got done playing there and had become friendly with Elway. We played some golf together, and he looked out for me. We had the same high school coach. We went to Stanford, played football, baseball, same fraternity. That was like the poster on my wall. But Elway took the leap at the Broncos, and in his first year, you know, he asked me, he said, Johnny, you know, I'm keeping a lot of the scouts, but I don't know them. And I love the way you think about football. Could you watch the safeties this year and write some reports? And so I did that for him. And I remember it was the year of like Mark Barron and Harrison Smith. And I took a lot of pride in, I had no idea how scouts did things, but I just watched it like I would watch film. And I sat there at the computer and wrote some reports. And Elway was blown away with like the detail. You know, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. The next year, he says, you know, that was awesome, Johnny. Why don't you do the DBs? So I did the entire DBs. I added the corners. The next year, he invites me in for their draft process. And this was all like, you know, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of time. I went to Indy. I went to the combine with the Broncos that year. And so that started piquing my interest. And, you know, long after that, there was a guy who ended up bidding for the Carolina Panthers, and he didn't get the team. Tepper got it, but there was another gentleman by the name of Ben Navarro, and I worked with his brother at Fox, and he one time asked if he could meet with me, and out of the blue asked me if I would run his team if he got the Panthers. And I said, really? Are you serious? And he asked me to kind of put together a vision statement for how I would run a team. And so I spent a couple weeks doing that. I met with him. And from that point forward, I kind of just said, you know, if the right scenario ever came about, you know, this might be something I want to do. I love the folks at NFL on Fox. I was working with Kevin Burkhardt, who's now at the top, and so happy for that dude. He's going to be working with Brady this year.
Same.
But, you know, I was missing like competition. I was missing scoreboard. I was missing the wins, the losses, all of that. And then, you know, it out of nowhere, you know, something was keeping me up at night one year, and you know, I didn't even know what it was. And my wife said, something's on your mind. I know you when you're acting like this, you can't sleep. And I had done a bunch of Falcon games that year, and Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. It's the year they went to the Super Bowl against the Patriots. And, you know, I heard something like Kyle Shanahan's going to get this Niners job, and that's the one he wants. But somebody said he's struggling to find a GM he wants to work with. And so something was on my mind. I had done a bunch of Kyle's games that year, and I gave him a cold call. And I just said, hey, dude, I want to thank you for all the time you've given me all year in these production meetings. I heard something that you're struggling to find a GM. And he goes, I am, man. It's killing me. I think I am going to take that Niners job. And he goes, why are you asking? And I said, well, consider me, you know, like, I don't even know if I do it, but, you know, just think about that and see what you think. And his first question, he's like, dude, why would you do that? You got a great job. You got a great life. Like, why would you even consider doing that? And I said, you go play your games. He did. He called back and he said, man, I can't stop thinking about what you said to me. Would you do that? And I want you to come meet this dude named Jed. Well, that dude named Jed was our owner here, Jed York. Came and met Jed. We flew cross country to Atlanta. I was offered the job on that flight. We meet with Kyle, and the whole thing's wrapped up. I hadn't even talked to my wife or family yet. It all moved kind of fast, and here we are 8 years later.
How cool is that?
It's amazing. What a great story.
I love that story where he had no idea that he had it in him, and then Elway saw something in him, was like, hey, you should go and check out the safeties for me. And he did, and Elway liked the work, and then he had him check out the defensive backs. And as he's writing the reports and starting to study the players, I think that's when he realized, like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
But what I like what he said there, he missed the wins and losses. And the one thing I've always asked ex-pros, and they don't really have an answer for it because there is none, like, how's that transition been to life after football? You know, what have you found that gives you that charge? Jerry Rice looked me straight in the eyes. He goes, I'm still searching.
Yeah.
Like, they can't replace the highs and the lows of that type of competition.
Yeah, you talk to them, and often they'll say, I miss the guys. You hear that.
Yep.
But that competitive fire that it takes to get all the way to the top to play in that league, pretty hard to go without that fire. I don't know what you do.
Yeah. I just love that. And John Lynch was very unassuming. You know, he obviously was a smart guy, but I love the advice Elway gave him. He's like, hey, you're smart and you know how to lead. You'll figure the rest of it out.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just the right person at the right time saying something where you're like, oh, okay.
And we're agreed. He's really good at it, don't you think?
He's terrific.
Yeah.
He's terrific, and he understands how to work with people, surround himself with the right people. He waited until the right situation came up. Obviously, he knew Kyle Shanahan really well, trusted him. And then you go to the 49ers, a franchise that's been known for years as being one of the best in terms of supplying their staff and their players with whatever they need to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you can be good as a general manager or front office person, but if you're in the wrong spot without the proper support, it may not work out.
For sure.
And then you locate a player like Brock Purdy at the end of the draft.
Yeah.
That pays off.
Yeah.
You know, you take a look at a guy like that. You have your scouts look at him. He did say during that interview that Brian Greasy, who is their quarterback's coach, was paramount in identifying Brock Purdy, where after he looked at the film and talked with him, he's like, hey, I really like this guy. He's got something. You know, so you draft a guy and take a chance on him.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that he's your franchise quarterback. It's amazing. Here's Lynch talking about, this is interesting, about how the league changes, right? Sometimes you got running teams, passing teams.
Oh, yeah.
Take a listen to this.
My point was it went from the bigger back later on. You know, speed is always going to be important, but things shift. And we went through that shift when we brought Debo in here. You know, we were all into separators at the wide receiver position, but there was a trend going on that teams were pressing the rules on defense in terms of holding wide receivers within those 5 yards. And if you're not strong enough or powerful enough, you can't get away from that. So Debo was kind of our response. We need a bully. We need somebody who plays with power. And Debo lit the league up. You know, we watched a guy at South Carolina who was so strong. We had him at the Senior Bowl and just saw how thick this dude was and the power that he played the game with. And so, yeah, it's fun to watch the cycles that go on. I think the game is much more spread out now. And so the ability to play in space is critical. But I do think that, like, we're in a league right now where you got to have the ability to play with power. We talk about during the draft, like this last week, and we drafted a bunch of Niners, and that's guys who love to compete, guys that can run, who can, you know, we always want to be a fast team, but then physical guys that play with knockback. We hear so much about health and safety measures and that taking the physicality out of the game. I don't believe that's true. I think, you know, whoever's the aggressor, whoever's doing the knocking back is going to win. And we try to add players that do that.
Very perceptive. I had always wondered, you know, the 49ers over the last few years, they've been collecting in the draft and through free agency pass rushers, big defensive linemen, guys who can get around the edge and get on the quarterback. And he made the point, and this made sense, his days in Tampa where he had Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice.
Yes.
And the fact that, you know, 3 Mississippi and those guys are on the quarterback, as a safety, it made his job so much easier because he didn't have to be staying back there in coverage forever because those guys, 3 Mississippi, and boom, they're on the quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said when he was in Denver, they had good defenses, but they didn't have Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp, and you're back there for 5 Mississippi. He said it's a different ball game then. And so that time in Tampa with the powerful guys they had up front with some of those legendary defenses, it influenced him in ways that shaped some of the decisions that he makes as a general manager now. Isn't that fascinating?
I loved it when he talked about physical running backs, and he was talking about how his teammates warned him about hitting Ironhead Haywood. And it was like, hey, be careful now. This guy, you've never been hit until you've been hit by this guy.
Yeah, I think it was, who was it? Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards was the one warning him.
Yeah.
Because he knew that Lynch was going to fly in like a missile because Lynch played with reckless abandon.
Yeah.
With very little regard to his body. He was up there to try and level a big hit and support the run. That's what he was known for, big hits. John Lynch was a hitter. Ironhead Hayward is one of the most powerful backs of all time. He was a legend coming out of Pittsburgh. He was tough, and I think the way Lynch described it is that he played in that run-and-shoot offense. I think it was with Atlanta at the time, and they ran that little draw play, and Lynch came firing through, and he said, I found out why they call him Ironhead.
He said he got knocked back faster than he came forward.
Yes. And that he felt numb on his body, head to toe. He goes, I probably shouldn't be saying this right now, but that's what happened. Yeah, that's very interesting. But John Lynch, it's just like, who's the hop that we talked to? Tommy Troy, Stanford guy.
Yeah.
All the Stanford guys are just too smart.
They have something in common there, don't they?
Yeah, it's like you talk to them, you're like, okay, you're just getting over because they are smarter.
Yeah.
You can't walk or breeze through Stanford. That's not even acceptable. You got to put in the time and the work, and John Lynch is as good as they come. But I think his best trait, obviously he's smart and he knows how football works, but he knows how to deal with people. He's genuine. He gets along with people. He knows how to lead, but it's his, when you're genuine and you treat people a certain way, the right way, you're going to have success.
Chad, I'm convinced, too, that having a job in media like he did, he came from the field and went into media. Those networks, the big networks, before they put you on NFL Today or all those shows, they get extensive media training. I think that served him so well. And all these guys could use media training, and it really is a help.
Yes.
It greases the skids for them.
There's no doubt, because if you, like, for instance, we noticed that with Joe Cronin's, first couple of press conferences as a new guy. Rightfully so, you're nervous, right? Because you're stepping out in front of people and you're a decision maker now, and everyone's looking to you for the word, the direction.
There's all those cameras staring you in the face.
Because you're like, okay, I can do this job. But you don't take into consideration all the details of being the man.
Yeah.
And then when you step out there, you sound nervous because you are.
Yeah.
Well, when you can present yourself in a certain way with confidence and you know how to communicate to people and look into a camera and stuff like that, the way people perceive you is different, And that's why I think media training for high-level executives should be an absolute must.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, worse. Coaches, too. I think a lot of coaches could use it.
Well, on the flip side, we were talking about this, too. Olshey, part of his problem was just not dealing with the media as well as he could have.
He could have done much better in that regard.
Yeah. And there's been many others. Jerry Jones does not appear to be uncomfortable in front of a camera.
Yeah. Well,
he probably says too much.
Bob Whitsitt had his problems with media, too.
He had problems with a lot of things.
Yeah, he did. Yes, very true.
What was he like to cover?
Oh, impossible.
Impossible?
Yeah, because he just thought he was better than you and smarter than you, more articulate than you.
Yeah.
He was just better all the way around.
And that's wonderful. I love that he had signs removed from the games that said trade Whitsitt.
Oh, can you imagine?
How petty can you be?
No kidding.
Dude, you're the general manager of an NBA team. Why are you worried about someone holding up a sign cracking on you?
Yeah, and all you do by complaining or having them removed is make the thing 10 times bigger than it was.
Was he the one that made the comment about chemistry?
Yes. I was not a chemistry major. Obviously, you weren't. He'd just throw a fantasy team at his coach and expect him to make something out of it.
How does a guy like that get through to Paul?
I think
were they longtime boys?
The Seattle connection really helped because he had done well with his Sonics. He makes big trades. He's not afraid to swing a big deal. He got lucky. He got a few players in there, and he's still a hero in Seattle, I'm sure.
I'd rather have Hat Guy as general manager than I would Bob Whitsitt.
That guy. Yes. We got to find that man.
Is he in jail? Probably.
Well, he was.
He was.
Yeah, there was some sort of pyramid scheme there.
I want Hat Guy. That's who I want. Give me Hat Guy. All right. Keep rolling here on the Rib City Drive. Telephone number is 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. When we come back, Seth Hoyland of the Hops is going to join us. Hey, Godfather, you'll love this. Seth Hoyland, who is in Everett right now with the Hops, made his way to T-Mobile Park yesterday for the finale of the Braves and Mariners.
Yeah, that was a day game yesterday.
It was, and he joins us right now. What's up, Seth?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Dude, it's so great to have you on the show. How are things going up there in Everett?
Going well. Middle of a really long road trip right now, a 12-game trip. So just had 6 games in Everett. We went 3-3 there against Eugene, and now 6 games against the Everett Aqua Sox here, just 30 minutes north of Seattle. But yeah, had the night game here yesterday, so was able to get over to T-Mobile Park for the Mariners and Braves day game. That was pretty cool.
Hey, Seth, we'll talk about the Hops like we always do, but since you were in the ballpark yesterday, I have a couple thoughts on the Mariners after watching the 3-game series with the Braves. Number one, their pitching is obviously great, maybe the best in the big leagues for the starting rotation. And I'm curious, they've got to get some pop, right? I don't think their offense is going to be good enough to take advantage of the great pitching they have. I'm also a little worried about their defense. I'm not impressed at all with how they defend. And I know Crawford's not playing short right now. They miss him. But, gosh, a couple of bad errors in the outfield yesterday. What do you think all in all?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, Mariners starting pitchers have been absolutely incredible this year. Over the last 19 games, Seattle pitching starters and relievers combined have allowed a total 30 earned runs, and I'm sure you guys have talked about that on the show, but that is the best in the majors, and it's not even close. The second best is Boston with 55, so a 25-run gap between those two teams over the last 19 games. But you mentioned, I mean, the starting rotation has been incredible, and it's a pretty cool connection here to the Everett Aqua Sox in the Northwest League, because you look at the Mariners starting rotation, George Kirby, Emerson Hancock, who pitched in the game yesterday, Brian Wu, who's on the IL, coming back here soon. They all pitched here in Everett, and then the Mariners lineup too, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, all of them played here for the Aqua Sox. And the Hops actually last year faced J.P. Crawford. He made a rehab appearance with Everett and batted leadoff against the Hops last year. So cool connection there. Always cool to see former Northwest Leaguers play. But yeah, I agree with you, Dwight. I think the offense definitely needs to step up. I mean, you look at the lineup yesterday. Jorge Polanco batting third. He's hitting 181 on the year. And then Cal Raleigh batting cleanup, hitting 217. And then the bottom of the lineup, you have Dylan Moore, Luis Urias, and Sam Haggerty. That's just not going to cut it.
Yeah, now let me get back to Hops. And I don't know. You're on the road, and I follow the games on the road. But, Seth, I wanted to ask you, I'm getting the feeling that this team is kind of settling in a little bit, and we're going to see a little more from them from now on. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely would agree with that as well. It always sucks when you have injuries. Of course, we know a couple teams who have had injury problems over the years, but the Hops, losing the top 2 draft picks to start the year. Gino Groover, the second-round pick out of NC State, broke his wrist in a game in Vancouver, and then Tommy Troy, who of course was on the show to start the year, he's out for the next 4 to 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. So losing your top 2 hitters obviously is never good, but similar to the Mariners, Hops pitching has been very good this year, a 3.22 team ERA, so doing very good, pitching the ball. And the guy who threw yesterday has been phenomenal this year, Spencer Giesting, the lefty out of UNC Charlotte. He was an 11th round pick in 2022, and entering yesterday's game for the Hops, he had 16 scoreless innings pitched this year, and he took a 0 heading into the 6th inning yesterday where he gave up a couple runs. So the pitching definitely has been a solid. The bat's starting to come around, and this is a very hitter-friendly ballpark here in Everett, and starting to see those power numbers kick up in these first 2 games.
All right, Seth, what are you looking for from the game tonight?
Yeah, tonight's game is a bounce-back opportunity for the Hops, falling in yesterday's game 7-1. But there's been some really crazy games. The 6-game series in Eugene, 3 of the 6 games went to 10 innings or more. So a lot of extra inning games. Through 23 games this year, 10 one-run games, including a 14-inning game against these Everett Aqua Sox to start the year. So it's kind of been a crazy season so far. I think the Hops bats today, though, wake up after that one-run performance yesterday. They face a tough lefty, but it should be a good day for the offense.
All right, Seth Hoyland is with us. First pitch coming up at 7:05 with Everett and your Hillsboro Hops. Seth, enjoy your evening. Have a good call, my friend. And Dwight and I look forward to seeing you out there at the park next Wednesday on the 8th.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
There you go, Seth Hoyland, Hillsboro Hops here on the Rib City Drive.
Yeah, we're going out there. That's great.
It's going to be fun. Hopefully the weather will be cooperative.
Yes, we'd like to see it.
Better weather's coming. I think next Friday is going to be maybe 80.
Yeah, now they've revised it down to 78, but I'll take it.
I'll take 78 all day. Big thanks to Todd Schrupp, who joined us from FDTV. Enjoyed talking Derby with him.
Excellent interview, Chad. Great job.
Big thanks to Michael Shacker for dealing with us today.
I'm off to see the Winter Hawks.
That's right. You got your credential. It came
I
through.
did. Yeah.
All right. When